easy having the cows because they always, you could just open the gate and they could come to the cow shed, which was up that paddock too, up that road too.
So Kumara was the next.
Kumara was
the
well,
next.
that's 11 miles away out from our settlement. We were on the river, and
do you remember what the river's name was?
Taramacau, the Taramacau River.
Is it a Maori word?
Probably, yes.
Do you know what it?
Somebody told me that our farm area used to be a Maori garden. Whether it ever was, I don't know. There were 8 farms, and they were all sort of on a bit of a hill, some of them, and the road came through right to the settlement. It was called Hohonu. The whole area was called Hohonu. Hohonu.
Do you know what it means?
It was bad. No, I haven't a clue. But we used to call it Taramacau Settlement. We had a school there and a schoolhouse.
Wow.
And there was 8 farms. Yes, the one at the top, and then there was one next to that, then another one. And the one that was the second one down, they had land above the road up on sort of a bit of a hill because there was hills all around us, except out to the river. It was a beautiful place to live. And every minute of the day, the landscape changed colour. It was wonderful to live there. And at the top of the valley, they used to get a lot of wind coming through the hills, whereas where we were, we never got any wind at all, except, I believe, that our barn got blown over because the man who took our place over chopped a lot of trees out.
Oh, okay.
Silly man.
Yeah.
Oh,
and how did you find this farm in the first place?
Well, it was advertised, and when we looked for a farm, we couldn't afford to buy one in Canterbury. They were too dear. So we just had enough money to buy one on the farm, and we had a little mortgage with the bank over there. And Ivan's father gave us a bit of money, I think, but we just worked hard. And because when we lived at Earling, which is on the banks of the Rangitata River, we leased 65 acres. And we used to buy 200 sheep every year, old gummy ewes that were in lamb, that were good quality sheep, from a farmer up the road. The first time we bought them from Addington, and then we discovered they were from a man up the road, and they were sheep with black faces and black legs.
Oh, yeah, they're
South
cute.
Suffolk. And we got 200 every year, and I lambed them down every spring. And we turned our little 65 acres into 7 paddocks, little paddocks, and we actually, one paddock we put lucerne in, so we had that for the summer, and we did very well. Plus Ivan bought an old truck, and we had a seed stripper made on the front of it. It went on the front of the engine in the truck, and he drove around the roads and collected the seed off the roads because it was cocksfoot, lots of wonderful seeds on the road. And then the farmers heard that we were using it, so at the weekends he used to go and go around farmers' paddocks and their grass seed paddocks and collect the grass seed. And he tipped it out. We had a great big tarpaulin. We tipped it out on that, and I bagged it up. And we used to go halves with the farmers with the seed. And we'd take our seed into town to the seed cleaner, and he would clean it for us and sort it, and he would sell it. And we got the money for that too.
Wow.
So it was amazing. You know, if you use your brain, you can always make money on a farm. Yeah.
Wow.
And then we had one cow the boss gave us, a part of our wages. We had to halve our wages when we came out of the army, and Ivan's mother was furious with me for getting Ivan out of the army. It was the best thing I ever did, though. Well,
yeah, he was on the end of
the twins were coming up 6. We came down in the Christmas time, and they were 6 in the February. And I could see if Ivan was going to sign on for another 5 years, what were we going to do after that? He wouldn't do. He played sport. He played cricket and badminton, and he just loved sport. We would have had no money. He would like buying and selling cars. We had no money in the bank. If we came down for a holiday to see the old folks, that took our whole year's savings. And so I could see we had no future. And so I made him go farming.
So, and how much was the farm, how much did you have to pay back then for the farm?
On the coast, I can't remember. I can't remember what we
Do,
paid
do you
for.
do you know which year it was when you bought it?
I can't remember. It was terribly run down.
Mm.
There was hardly a fence on the property.
Mm.
The pigs, apparently, people told me the pigs used to live under the house.
Oh dear.
There was only 1 or 2 pigs, sows when we went there. I don't know what happened to one, or did we just buy some piglets? But we had whole milk,
Mm.
and we had to separate and just sell the butter, sell the cream. And so we built a piggery, and we bought in weaned piglets
Yeah.
and put them in the piggery. And then we just fattened them up on the milk, and we bought ground barley for them and fed them. And no trouble at all selling them.
Yeah.
We used to send them off to the rabbitors through the stock agent, because they got their cut out of it. But you know, you could always manage on a farm. And I bought I used to buy meat. We used to kill our sheep. We had some sheep out in the riverbed. They ran with the neighbours. And then I saw the neighbour taking our lambs, and I had opened our gates, and our sheep had come back into our paddock with their lamb. And I came home from milking one morning, and he was my neighbour taking our sheep round and lambs round to his place. So I got on my bike and went round there. I always said, "You don't need to, Irene, I'll sort them out." I said, "No, you won't, Bill. I'm going to help. I know my lambs." Wouldn't let him do it because he was a rogue. Because when we went there, the man we bought the farm from, he was an alcoholic, and he was always away in his car, left his wife to do everything. She had 7 children in 7 years. She only had 3 living. And she was a city girl from Auckland. And he ended up with his car upside down in a river. And when we took the farm over, the agents came, and the man around the road helped us carrying up the stock. I think I might have told you.
Yeah.
And when I noticed this, Ivan out counting the yearlings, that what are we doing with crossbreeds? We bought a Frisian herd, and they were crossbreed with jerseys. And when Ivan came in, because I was cleaning up the house was disgusting. And in the barn, I cleaned out the dog kennels and put the dogs in the kennels, got rid of the fleas in the barns, cleaned the house out with a whole lot of piles of Dettol, and cleaned the whole place up, took all the curtains down and opened up the house. There were 6-inch nails in the windows.
Oh my God.
Don't think they ever opened the windows. Cleaned the place up. And the kids and I caught scabies.
Oh dear.
So I took the kids into town, and I went with them. And the doctor got his magnifying glass out and said, "Oh yes, where are you living?" Tara, he said, "Oh, don't tell me." He says, "I know where you're living." He says, "If this is all you get," he says, "you'll be lucky."
Oh dear. Oh. So you had a Frisian cow herd.
We had a wonderful Frisian herd. They came originally from Holland.
Yeah, I know them because they are very common in Germany as well.
They
They're
are.
beautiful big cows.
And you see, you can use them for beef as well as milk.
Yeah, they are
very good milk.
strong, big cows.
Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And so we took it over, and then we had the milking herd was all Frisian, but these yearlings weren't Frisian. Frisian. I could tell there was a cross.
So there was a bull somewhere else who...
Well, you could tell by the look of them. Some of them had that golden colour in them. They weren't pure Frisian. But then I noticed over the fence, the next door neighbour, he had a Jersey herd, and I noticed that he had some Frisian Jersey cross in his yearlings. So they'd come from our place.
Oh. So he let his bull out.
So we never said anything. Ivan wouldn't stand, didn't like confrontation of any kind. He never said a word. We never said a word. We never let on that we knew that he'd done it. Whether he'd made arrangement with the farmer that we bought the farm from, we don't know. But we never mentioned it. We didn't want to have any carry on, you know.
You just made sure that the fence was
we re-fenced the farm.
Yeah, good
and
fence.
Ivan reorganised the farm, put centre races down, put paddocks off the centre races, and we fenced for years. Put fences up. We put 3-wire electric fences up everywhere. Yeah. It was very interesting, but it was a lot of hard work and a lot of heartache. And Ivan never spoke about what he was going to do. He just used to sit with a pencil and a paper and be writing on a what he was going to, but he never ever discussed it with me. And I just left him to it because I had the kids to cope with, to get them to school. They had to bike 2.5 miles, an hour along our road, up the hill, down the hill the other side, and along to the school. And they hated it. But I said to them, there's nothing to hurt you in this where you go through up the road and through the forest. There's nothing there to hurt you. There's no wild animals here other than deer and possums. They were frightened of it because it was something completely new for them. But they were about 10 or 11 years old at the time. So they had each other. Yes. And Jennifer was wonderful. If I was milking the cows, she would have the housework done.
Wow.
She'd get up and have their breakfast. I used to leave everything, right? And it was always very convenient. I had everything convenient. And she would make a batch of scones or make cakes or slices and get their lunches ready for school. And she was wonderful. And she'd vacuum the house. She loved vacuuming the house. Yes, she still does it where she is now. And then she leaves the vacuum cleaner where you'll fall over it when you come in. She never put the vacuum cleaner away. But she'd do the washing, get it out on the line. She was wonderful. And they didn't have to start school till 9:30.
Oh, okay.
Because of the farming, milking, you see, and everything.
Yeah.
And it suited the headmaster. And it was just a sole charge school that all the kids went to school there. And you had to take them all. Yeah. We went to a sole charge school when we were kids for a while after we lived at grandfather's farm.
And you told me once you had the big flooding.
Yes, well, we'd been there a few years and then we had to Turinge. They had 3 inches of rain at Tatera and all that water came down. And where our farm was at the bottom of the valley, it wasn't a valley really, it was just the side of the river. But where it went down, out through to Kamara, there was a what do you call it, on the river, stopped it going through, a gorge.
Yeah.
And you see, it backed up. And it backed up because our farm was the bottom one. Backed up over our farm. I used to get up at night when there was a lot of rain and see how it was coming up over the paddocks. Well, that flood came right up to the house, and it went about that far from the top of the house flooring.
Wow.
I got up all through the night to see how high it was going to go, and I thought, I'll wait till there was a branch out, and we had an orchard of apple trees. I looked to see where there was a bottom branch, and I thought, if it comes up to that branch, we'll have to get up on the roof. But it didn't. It stopped and went down.
Lucky.
And Ivan couldn't cope with anything that happened, any emergencies.
Okay.
And it terrified him. He said, when the water goes down, we're going to walk off here. I said, no, we're not. We'll go to town and see if we've got problems. He said, you can't see the grass because with the backup water, it brought silt and it covered all the paddocks. And I said, but look, it'll rain tomorrow. And I said, the cows all came home and were around the barn and out on the road. They couldn't get into the section we had fenced off around the house. And they just wandered around. And I said, we've got all that barley, which was up on a big high thing in the barn, all stacked up there. We just bought barley for the pigs, ground barley. I said, if they go hungry, they can eat along the road, because there was grass on the road. I said, we could give them some barley on some corrugated iron or boards. We never had to, because when it rained, and next to no time, the grass was coming up through the silt.
And the silt is apparently lots of minerals and stuff.
Of course there was.
So it is actually...
Exactly. And every year we bought meadow hay from a friend of ours over here at Hinds, and it had seed in it. So we used to feed out on the paddocks.
So the seed can spread.
And it reseeded it. Yeah. So we never had to, we top dressed one paddock. I sat on the back of the tractor with a hopper on the back and stirred up the superphosphate, and I was covered in white. Yeah, but anyway, but I only ever did it the once, so I said, I'm not doing that again. We didn't really have to do it again, actually. We got a man in with some lime, and he limed the paddocks with a lime sower at one stage. And we one farrad ploughed one area of our land up the road, and we got a man and put a big drain around it to take one farrad plough with a plough share as deep as that, and it went down deep, and it put all the water into the drains around. And the farmers around said, oh, you'll never get back on there. Our fathers never did that. but we could drive the car over it in the summertime
Mm.
because it always rained over there. But as you know, it rains a lot at night.
Mm.
It doesn't rain every day, and there wasn't a week I didn't get my washing dry.
Mm.
And I had lines outside. I didn't wash and dry them inside.
Mm.
Yes. But it was lovely. It was absolutely lovely.
Mm.
It was peaceful. And the kias used to come down and
Mhm.
fly around with their red wings under
Yeah.
their head. It was lovely. And we had all sorts of animal, bird life. We had little wee tomtits that had yellow breasts.
Oh, yeah.
We had bush canaries. We had fantails. We had tuis. We had you'll hear the kiwis at night when we were out. And we had deer.
Mm.
Came down every night. So Ivan bought himself an old army rifle, and then when he'd shot a few, and then he went and bought himself one of those semi-automatics that you're not allowed to have now. And we could shoot. We shot 500 deer in 8 years on our farm.
Wow.
Never had to go off the farm. And the possums didn't come on our farm. We got a little possum. We were going out one day, and there was this possum had been run over, and it had a baby with it.
Oh.
So we picked it up and took it home. And we had her for not quite 2 years.
Mm.
And she used in a shopping bag on the back porch. And I used to let her out every day and put her out on the apple trees and give her milk and bread and carrots and apples and things, you know. She was lovely.
Mm.
We loved her. And we had our 2 cats. We had 2 dogs. We had 3 dogs to start with. We had to shoot one old one when she became a nuisance. And we had a bitch that had 9 puppies.
Mm.
We got rid of them all except kept one for ourselves, and I trained her. She was a wonderful dog.
Mm.
The chap that bought our farm didn't tie them up, and they ate the possums that had been killed on that.
Oh, was it poisoned?
And
Oh.
the dogs died. 2 wonderful dogs we had,
Mm.
Lass and Miss.
Mm.
Breaks your heart to even think of it.
So,
Yeah.
oh.
And once we did the house up, it was lovely. It was really lovely. We had 6 feet onto our bedroom and onto the living room, and
But you've been there only for 8 years, or?
yes, I think it was. We had Graham 17 years after the twins. I had Graham the day before I was 40, and he was 4 when we left.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And Jennifer got herself married and went off, but she came home every weekend with her husband. And John used to come. We used to make hay. We bought our own baler and made our own hay. John used to come and bring his father's old van and bring the hay put it in the barn. We had a huge old barn and a workshop on it at the end of it. You know, we had everything.
Mm-hmm.
But Ivan couldn't stand it any longer.
Mm.
He started wanting to come over to the coast every few weekends. He'd bring a trailer load of sheep skins or possum skins and sacks.
So you think
and
it
he'd
was
come over and
too boring for him after a while, or was it too boring for him after a while, or is he just
I
a
think
city?
he wanted to see the girls in town.
Oh, okay.
He started playing badminton with one of the neighbours, and they'd come in on a Monday night. But he never grew up.
Hmm. You told me once you and Ivan were, I think it was with Graham in the car, and the brakes failed.
Yes, coming down the hill. We've been over here. We used to come over here quite often. It used to take us 3 hours to drive over. So when we weren't milking, sometimes we'd come over and stay with my mother, who lived not far from here. And Ivan would go away off looking at farms or looking at cars or looking at the girls in the square or
whatever.
whatever. We'd go to the pictures and we came over to the old rugby match. Yes. But I just loved where we were. I could have lived there forever.
So in one day when you were going back to home?
Yes, we were going out down this great big long hill. It was before a terror, I think. I can't remember anyway. It's such a long time ago now, because now we used to have to climb up a staircase to go over. Now they've got this road, the bridge, what they call it, I don't know what,
yeah, I know.
over they've got now. Yes, they didn't have that then. the first time I went over there, and the road was always shingle corrugated, and you could feel the car going over towards the edge, you know, down the scroll.
Dear.
I reckoned that I'd never drive a car, but gosh, I took trailers over there and did everything in the end, and it didn't bother me, you know. You just get used to everything. And from Kamara out to our road was a single shingle road. It had the river on one side and the bush on the other, and the everything grew right up to the road, so you never knew what was in the bush. And if you met somebody on the road, you had to be very careful, go through a washout on the road or something, and sit there where the road was more stable, so we could both pass each other. And there was logging trucks used to come out. I don't know where they went. They must have gone round to, because we came out our road and to called the Greenstone, and there was a road went off there round to Lake Brunner. There was a hill between Lake Brunner and us, and there was a hotel round there, and people used to go around there fishing a lot to Lake Brunner. And at the Greenstone there was a sawmill. I've got the painting of it here, and at that junction, and all the river that was little river that was there. I don't know what that river was called. Never ever found out. Called the Greenstone maybe. They found a lot of gold there in the early days. And at that junction of the road going around to Lake Brunner, there was an old, it was the old jail, I think. And there'd been another one too, but it had fallen down. And there was a great big rose grew there. Beautiful big pink rose. And one day I was coming out and I noticed they were bulldozing this rose out. And I got out and I said, "Don't do any more. It'll come away again from the roots." He said, "What do you want it for?" I said, "Because it's lovely." Just up near this old building. And apparently there'd been a store there, but the store had gone over. And above the road, on the other side of the road, there was a man that lived there, an old chap by himself, next to the sawmill. And he had sheep, and the sheep were always on the road, wild sheep. And Mickey McGrath, his name was. He was just an old bachelor. And at the sawmill, there was an old man looked after that too. His name was Sammy Straight, and he was a little crippled man. He'd fallen off a bridge and broken his back, and he often used to come out and have a yarn to me. And he said to me once, "If you ever go walking, always take a stick and put the stick down on the path ahead of you, because you can't see, because there's a lot of holes where they've dug for gold." He said he fell in, and fortunately he said he had his rifle across his back, and his rifle stopped him falling down to this huge hole in the bush. You know, they'd never have found him. He said he had to wait and struggle to get out himself, but he said it's very dangerous to go, and you must always make it. But there were tracks in too where they used to, you know, bring the Chinese used to go in there in the early days, and they built terraces of rocks. They never touched the greenstone, the Chinese. They always went after gold. And he said, this old Sammy said he used to take them out there and pick them up at weekends and take them to town, and they'd go and sell their gold and spend their money, and they all had pigtails, and they used to hold the pigtail of the chap in front of him. And he said, "I'd let them out of the old cart," and he said they'd all disappear into the bush. He said, "I don't know how they lived or anything." Yes, I've got an old camp oven that I picked up there, and I had an old kettle too. I gave it away to a chap that I picked up there. I picked up quite a few things out of the bush. We used to go for walks in there sometimes on a Sunday afternoon. Yes, but the bush around was beautiful. You know, it used to flower, and the lovely birds in the bush, the tuis and the kiwi, the bellbirds, and it was just lovely. You could walk in the bush and the little fantails would be flying all around you, you know. It was lovely. I loved it. And then when Graham left, Ivan and I used to go shooting every night until I had Graham. Then we had a boy came and helped milk the cows, and he was hopeless. Anyway, yes, Ivan had itchy feet, I think. Yes, and of course after I had the twins in Taihape, we didn't have a house in Waiuru. We lived in an old house in Taihape, and Mum came up to see me, and I was feeling pretty down after I had the twins. I couldn't walk. I couldn't stand up straight. I could hardly walk. Actually, another old doctor used to come to the hospital, and he helped me to stand up against the wall of the corridor. And I was feeling pretty low and I was feeding both the kids. And Mum came up with Granddad. I think Granddad paid to come. Granddad always loved me and he wanted to come and see me. He bought me a bottle of stout to buck me up. Wasn't very good for my babies, was it? But I didn't drink much of it anyway. And then Mum had to go home. And she said, I'm taking you home with me. And the doctor said, I've booked you into Karitani, which was a paper for mothers and babies over in Wanganui. And Mum said, oh, you can cancel it. I'm taking Irene home with me. Well, then when I got home, Mum, after I woke up with mastitis one morning, and I didn't feed Jennifer, and the breast was terribly sore. And so she put Jennifer on a bottle, and she never turned a hair. And Mum took Jennifer off me. She wouldn't let me touch her. And I was there for 5 months. It was dreadful in the end. I had a lovely Karitani nurse that used to come and help me. And then the old doctor used to come and see us sometimes, see Robert. And I have all the doctors in Ashburton. There was Dr. Wells, there was Dr. Ryburn, Dr. Fulton, there's other two doctors to see to Robert, to see if I could get him right, but none of them knew how to help. And in the end, I took him to Karitani up here in Christchurch, which was a baby's hospital. I came up for a fortnight and Mum looked after Jennifer. And they treated him, but he was vomiting black all the time and pooing black all the time. And I couldn't sleep. I never slept properly until he was 10 years old. I had to keep getting up every night, all the nights to him, because in case he died in his own vomit, you know. And in the end, he started to improve a lot. And I'd got to the stage where I couldn't stand being home with Mum anymore. She took me over, you know. And so I got him. I had my bike there from when I was at school and working. I got on my bike one day and left the kids with Mum. And I went down to Mum's old doctor, and it was out of visiting hours. And I said, his wife opened the door, and I knew his wife. She said, Irene, what are you doing here? I said, can I see the doctor? I want you to see the doctor and have a talk with him. She said, I'll go and get him. So she said, he'll see you. He's in his study. So I went in. Well, he said, it's taken you a long time to get here. He said, what do you want? I said, I want you to write a letter to the Colonel in Waiuru. I want a house. He said, well, I don't know why you haven't left earlier. I don't know what Ivan did in Waiuru. He came down twice, I think, to see us.
In 5 months? Twice?
I don't know what he did in Waiuru. He went to work, of course, but what he did in his spare time, I haven't a clue. Well, he told me not terribly long ago when he was here. He said, I found a receipt from a hotel in Wanganui. He said, when did we stay there? I said, I've never stayed in Wanganui. He put it back in his pocket and never said a word. He used to write to me when he was up there. But yeah. And I just thought to myself, I wonder if he played around when he was up there by himself in those 5 months.
Probably being Ivan. From what you know of him.
I always felt as though I always wanted to trust him, you know? Yeah, although I knew on my honeymoon that I was going to have a few problems. He was always looking over my shoulder. Anyway, I got my house, didn't I?
Yep.
Straight away. A 2-bedroom house. So I went and had my teeth out because I was having terrible trouble with my teeth. I weaned Robert. He wouldn't take to the bottle. Oh, I had an awful... Ivan's mother was so wild with me. He was a poor little kid, you know. But anyway, I got my teeth out. I went one day and I said, I want my teeth out and I want some input in a week. So he said, I'll take them out tomorrow. And he said, you'll have to wait a few days and I'll give you your new teeth in a week. So I got my teeth in. Ivan's mother came with me. We caught the plane and went up to North Island. And we couldn't get to Palmerston North. That airfield was flooded. We had to go to a hake, which was between Wellington and Palmerston North. And those days they didn't have air hostesses and a little old DC-3. And the pilot had his case and Jennifer under one arm, and I had I had the luggage and the kids' food and everything, and Ivan's mother, I don't know what she had, her own luggage, I think. The co-pilot was helping us off, and he'd radioed ahead and got a hut for me and a table and a chair to sit in so I could feed the kids and wait for a bus to take us up to Palmerston. We got up there and Ivan said, "Where the heck have you been? Why haven't you come in a plane?" I said, "Well, the airfield was flooded. They couldn't land. We had to go to Hagia." You know, the things you do. Anyway, when we got married, after we'd been married a wee while, I had enough money in the bank. I gave him some money to go and buy an old car, an old Hillman, I think it was. And so he'd driven down, and we all got into this car and went up to Waihiri to this house. He had to go and buy furniture. We hardly had any furniture.
Which year did you got married?
51.
51.
Had the twins in 52. Yeah.
And then 17 years later.
And then we were up there for 6 years, and I had no end of trouble, but the doctor in Taihape was very good with Robert. He used to see him, he used to come out of the camp every week, and we'd see him every week, but we couldn't stop him vomiting. Couldn't keep anything down. Anyway, then I came down to my sister's wedding, and I thought, right, we've been up there 6 years, Ivan's going to sign on again for another 5 years. I said to, and we'd shifted into 3 different houses up there. The second one we were in was a 3-bedroom house, and we went over the back fence, so that shifted over there one night. Some friends came and helped us put all the stuff over the back fence, and there was a public telephone out the front on the street, and the men used to come in and have a go at me for not having any money so they could use the phone. And I got sick of it. And I used to have one of the other wives that worked with Ivan. And he didn't really work with Ivan, he was at the army schools. And they used to go away off for weeks at a time on schemes and things. And his wife couldn't bear to be by herself, she had a little girl. So I used to get her to come round and stay with me. And we were sitting outside when this man came round and wanted some money, and I didn't have any change or anything. And he was going to bash the door down and get inside and look for money. I said, "Well, I haven't got any." And so when Ivan came home, I said, "Right, we're shifting. Not staying here any longer."
But this is very rude, just, you know.
They were so rude. They were men that worked doing the rubbish, and they were, what do I call them? Like council people. And they did look after the roads and the rubbish, picked up the rubbish every week and did things around the camp, you know, but they weren't army people.
And they were so rude and just...
They were just so rude, yeah, and I just got sick of it. And I said, "I'm not staying here any longer." And we had a lovely garden there. Ivan had a wonderful, we always had a wonderful vegetable garden. When we first shifted there, in the first house, Ivan went and bought a wheelbarrow and a shovel and a spade and a rake and a hoe. And he put them all in the barrow and was going down the back section. There was no garden there or anything. The next door neighbour says, "No use crying at anything, you can't even grow spuds here." Ivan says, "Watch this plot." And from then on, we always had one. Once he got going, we had a wonderful vegetables. He always grew wonderful vegetables. Yeah. Wherever we went.
And that was then also when the train went down into the river. Was it also when the train went down into the river?
Yes, the first Christmas we were there. Ruapehu broke the blanks up in the mountain, and the water went down and washed in the midnight, washed the train off the bridge.
It was Christmas, wasn't it?
It was,
Was it Christmas?
It was right at Christmas.
Yeah.
And there was hardly anybody left in the camp. And Ivan was still working. He was in the Secret Service with communication. There's a dry ship. It was a 5 miles down the road from Waihiri, or probably 15 miles actually when I think of it. It was called Irarangi, HMS Irarangi. And he used to go there and do shift work and had to communicate all around the world with Morse code.
Yeah.
Listening to what was going on around the world. And it was a Secret Service job. He said to me, if I ever talk in my sleep, he said, try not to listen to what I'm saying, because he said if the Japanese come in or anybody comes in, he says you're in the
trouble.
Yeah, trouble, you see. And he was conscientious about his job, and they were going to shift the job from Irirangi to Waihuri, just down the road from Waihuri, but the government changed and they squashed it. And so things were, and then Ivan had to go back to the army and to the army schools and teaching people to do things. And he was a bit fed up, and I used to come home for lunch and he was grumpy, you know, and I thought, oh, he's sick of it. And then I came down to June's wedding to help with make the clothes for June's wedding. And I thought to myself, he's sick of the army. He's going to sign on for another 5 years. What are we going to do after 5 years? We'll still have no money.
No house.
No house. And he won't have a job. I wanted him to go to university while he was there and do a course on something, you know. He wouldn't do it. And so I thought, well, it's going to be up to me. So while I was down, I saw a chap that I started work with at Stock and Station Agents. And I rang Alistair up and I said, do you know any farmer that needs a married couple? Because we would have had to have had a house. We had no money. It cost us £100, I think, was all we had in the bank to get us down, shift our stuff down when we did shift in the end. We found this farmer that would take us on. And I rang the farmer up and I said to him that my husband didn't know anything about farming, except he'd lived on a farm during the war when his father was at the war and his mother was housekeeping for somebody. But I said that's all he knew about farming. But he's a wonderful vegetable grower. He knows how to grow a lawn and knows all about grass and growing veggies. And so the chap said, I'll take you on. So I said, but we're honest, because his last one apparently was a stealing stuff.
Oh.
And he was pleased to see us. So we lived in a terrible old cottage to start with, but it had all been painted up and it was quite livable. And we lived there for a year or so, and then they had another house on the farm as well, a new cottage, and the other people left, so we went and lived in the new cottage, and we were there for 6 years. Must have been 6 years we were there, because the children were, they weren't 12 when we left. They must have been 11 when we left and bought a farm. But we leased a 65-acre paddock and did a lot on that, you know. And we joined the community. Ivan became the scoutmaster, and I used to help at the Women's Institute and the hall, and we had any dues. I did all the flowers. And
so you would say that was also a very happy time.
We did have a happy time then. The people were lovely, and we also had our cow, which we gave us, and Ivan milked it every day, just sitting out in the paddock, and we had milk, and I bought myself a little separator. So we had milk and cream. I used to make my own butter, and then up the road, when they put all these power pylons down to send power down up to the North Island, and there was the road, up our road, there was a camp with all the chaps building all these pylons, and they'd drive up and down every day. And one of them stopped one day and he said, have you got a cow? And I said, yes. He said, you got any milk? Yes. I said, I've got cream too. Right, we'll have I said, but you'll have to have 2 billies. Leave one day and I'll fill it up for you with a lid on it. And you drop one off, and so every day. And I said, I've got cream as well. Wow. And then one day one of the chaps said, do you grow vegetables? Yes. So I started selling vegetables, cream and milk. So we started a little business there as well. And so that all went into the bank. And I did sewing for other people. I made a Girl Guides uniform for the boss's daughter, and I made dresses for the boss, his wife and her children and other people around, and I did knitting for other people, and I put all the money in the bank. I said, it's not to be spent on cars. So we saved money.
Yeah.
And then we got the seed stripper and saved. I used to work outside. Oh, I never ever wore a hat, and I never wore sunscreen. And I've never had any trouble with my skin. Yes, I was very lucky, really. And I used to make myself just shift dresses to wear, no sleeves in, you know, just an old straight dress. I didn't wear we didn't wear trousers much in those days. Yes, I used to have people to stay, and they said, he's going to kill you. I said, no, he's not. I'm enjoying myself. Yes, and money was going into the bank. We had about 3 or 4 cars when we were there, though.
6 years. You learned a lot from that farmer about farming.
Yes, we went farming. So we ended it. When we got there, we had nothing. Gosh, Ivan's mother was furious with us. Furious with me. Anyway. Well, they used to come out to see us quite often anyway. Yes. And I did enjoy it there. We had a lovely social life there too. I joined the Women's Institute and Ivan joined the Scouts, and there was always something to do. The boss's wife used to get Ivan to do her garden for her, and they had a wonderful orchard, and we planted an orchard at the new cottage, and I used to preserve, I don't know, 30 bottles a year.
Wow.
And wonderful fruit, and Canterbury's a wonderful place for growing fruit. Yes, and then we had our veggie garden, so we only had to buy a bit of meat.
And where was this farm you went on?
It was on the banks of the Rangitata River. As you go down to Timaru,
Yeah.
you leave Hinds, you go Ashburton and Hinds, and then you get to the Rangitata River. It's called Earling there, that area.
Earling.
And you go down a great big thing to the river, across the big river. It's a very big river, like the Ruapehu. And you go onto an island, Rangitata Island, and then there's a more river after that as well. And we weren't quite on it, the banks of the river, although some of the farm we were on, at the top of the farm, they had about 2,000 acres. And they had sheep and cattle, but two stud sheep, and they had two different breeds of sheep, Ryland sheep and Corriedales. And we used to buy our sheep and have them separate. And our boss used to, when we sent our lambs away, and all our mail went into the boss's letterbox, he was always out there and he was opening our mail to see how much we got for our lambs. He was a very honest religious man, but he couldn't stop himself looking to see what we got first. He said, I think I've opened the wrong envelope, Irene.
Yeah.
I said, never mind. Yeah, competition. So Ivan learnt farming there, but Ivan was very intelligent about the land and use of land, Yes, and we did well on the farm, although he never grew any vegetables on the farm, not one. He was so busy bringing the farm in, and I grew silver beet and rhubarb. I tried a few other things, but we used to get that eelworm over there, and anything like carrots and things you grew in the ground. So when we had to go send everything to the butter factory, I used to get great big sacks of mixed vegetables, frozen mixed vegetables, and peas, and put them in the freezer, and I'd buy a whole box of butter, put them all in the freezer. So we were 60 miles from town, so you couldn't rush to town in every 5 minutes, and I made sure that I always had plenty of everything. And we had sheep out. Ivan hated killing sheep, but I used to make him do 2 at a time.
Yeah.
And he used to kill them down in the shed, and he'd bring them in, and I'd say, but you've got to cut them down the spine. He'd put them on the dining table, the paper all over it, and I used to saw them all up with that little saw I gave you, and put them in the freezer. So we didn't buy a lot of meat. I used to buy a bit, every now and a bit of corned beef or something, a bit of beef, different. But we didn't kill any beef at that stage. When we left the farm, we left a steer out in the riverbed. We couldn't find one. And the butcher over there told us. He said he saw it. He used to go riding his horse around there. And he said he saw our steer. He said, he rang us up and he says, I'll shoot it and I'll cut it up for you and I'll package it and send it over. And he sent it over to us.
Oh, wow.
It was very nice. He's since died, I believe, Sammy Stewart. He was a really nice guy, Sam. Yeah. Yes, so we had it eventually. Yes. And then when I came here, I gave Ivan the freezer. So I don't know if he still got it or what he did with it. We had to buy another freezer over here then, because we left the big freezer in the house when we sold the farm. Yeah. Oh well. There we are. And then I altered all this house once I got in here. Turned it all around. Yes.
I know.
So we came into I've got a lovely sunny house, and I rang my builder the other day, I told her, to say to him, you made a good job of this house. I'm really enjoying it. Even though
Please like, share and subscribe our channel to see more animals, more adventures and enjoy New Zealand. Best greeting from the Toy Ranch.